Royal Majesty von Gayam II of Baligam, who lost a mother this week in Baligam village, to say that my sincere condolence to the royal family and to all sympathizers of the royal family of Baligam village. Thank you very much for having me this evening as your guest, Mr. Leo. I pray that we are going to have a wonderful conversation tonight with the very insightful topics on board.
We hope that the rumors we're getting of the passing of the fount of Bambalang, who was taken captive by separatists, does not turn out to be true. There are rumors that he may have died on the 20th. Yes. So we pray that that information is not true and that he is released to join his family and founder of Bambalang. He happens to be the president of the House of Chiefs for North-West region. We also are in the company of N Derick, who is an active member of Cameroon Civil Society. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening to all the panelists. It's always a pleasure to be here. A special good evening to all the genuine civil society activists out there, especially my friend and brother, Ndip Emmanuel. We are here to discuss on very pressing topics that touch the very core of Cameroon. And we'll be talking about the school environment, discipline, and disrespect, which is a foundation stone. And we'll be talking about the parliamentarians and their representative with the balance sheets that they'll be bringing back to their constituency. We also pray that you're going to stay put while we discuss positively to see how we can push the country ahead. Okay,
we'll start with you, Professor Mark Anthony. We're talking about the March session of our National Assembly. You are a reading of what has happened in Yaoundé. Very satisfied?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Leo. And I want to begin by saying that if you have to follow and understand exactly what the Cameroon Parliament looks like, by constitutional provision, Cameroon is having a bicameral parliamentary body, as well as the kind of democracy we have is supposed to be a representative democracy, where these individuals we call parliamentarians represent the sovereign people of Cameroon in that parliament, as well as are able to represent the ideas and let me use the word, the mindset of the people. But unfortunately, using the outing of the Speaker of the House, you realize that a lot of them, when they go, instead of participating in debates and in trying to come up with what is necessary for the governance of the nation, like laws, they are busy in different corners doing their different businesses instead of representing the people in the house. When we look at the core constitutional functions of a parliamentarian, you have two main functions of a parliamentarian, and these two functions are primarily to make laws, and secondly to bring the, let me use the word, to put the actually question the government, let me put it that way. So the question we should be asking is, how many laws have these guys been able to come up with for a better governance of this country, Cameroon? Because every day we see Cameroon going towards I don't know, sinking, let me use that word. So if we have parliamentarians who are supposed to be representing us, and it is the Speaker of the House who is asking them why they are not participating in sessions, then there is a problem. It implies that these individuals are not working for the betterment of Cameroonians. They do not even understand their functions. I don't know if most of them even understand the Constitution, because even though we say they are representatives of the people, I don't know if the people actually choose them to represent them. Because if they are representing the people, the business of the people become their business. That house become a place where they go sit there in order to help Cameroonians live well, to bring up laws that will be able to govern this nation towards progress and development. But if they are unable to find themselves seated in parliamentary sessions where might be government officials are being questioned or laws are being debated upon, if they cannot sit in such sessions, the question we should be asking is, do we really need parliamentarians anymore in Cameroon?
Okay, do we really need parliamentarians in Cameroon? We do need them because they are representing the respective constituencies. At least ministers have to defend the budget before them. Mr. Ndrick, you are reading of what has happened for the past 29 days in Yaoundé. Do you have the feeling that the people down there understand what their MPs are doing in Yaoundé? Is there feedback of what is happening?
Kum Leonard, it is very, very regrettable for a parliament like ours to practice what we call ghost parliament. For a nation that, of course, is talking about emergence in 2035, Kum Leonard, we have just, if my mathematical calculations don't fail me, just 13 more years from 2035. And parliamentarians who are supposed to play the role of the chief whip of the government desert parliament for reasons they know best. It is regrettable. It means simply that these people have total disregard for the Cameroonian citizen. And a parliament that does not have the people, the citizens at heart, or a system that functions that way is a failed one. I will quote my good friend Far Elvis, who used to call the system a kangaroo one. Yes, that is a kangaroo system. You talk of a balance sheet, Mr. Kum. What balance sheet, or what report cards, so to say? How authentic, how legitimate is the report card of these people? How were they, first of all, elected to this position? Some of them found their ways through back doors, and that's why they have total disregard for the population. I know that before any parliamentary session, parliamentarians from the different constituencies concert with their population, take their wishes and aspirations at the level of parliament to see how best the wishes of these people can be attained. I don't want to talk about parliamentarians from Southern Cameroons, Northwest and Southwest, who are hibernating in Yaoundé. At a certain time on this platform, I had said that parliamentarians from these two areas even should be caught for embezzlement because we don't know what they do with the micro project fund grants. They have never been in those areas, but they continuously receive these grants. What are they doing with it? I've said they should be charged for that. Parliamentarians are supposed to carry the aspirations of the people. The people have talked of investigating the COVID gate, about the COVID gate. Which of these parliamentarians have even mentioned the COVID gate to be investigated upon, the clan gate to be investigated upon, the Anglophone crisis. Cameroonians are calling for genuine dialogue, cessation of hostilities in these areas. These parliamentarians are there they say they represent the people. How many have taken the wishes and aspirations of the people in this so-called parliament? I think I was expecting very high instructions from the presidency to dissolve that this gathering of businessmen called parliamentarians. I would have expected high instructions from the presidency this time to dissolve this thing, because they serve us no purpose.
True.
They serve us no purpose. They are instead aggravating and making an issue and pushing Cameroonians. I mean, sapping the budget of the Cameroonian budget with sums, very huge sums of money that they earn. Where did they go to when the speaker needed them to discuss state issues? And I'll corner you likewise, Mr. Kum. In society, when you want to reprimand, when you want to praise, your tune is different from your tune of if you want to reprimand. When I listen to the speaker's tune, in fact, Mr. Kum, where are we heading to? The voice was like somebody who was going to die the next minute. What does that present to the international community? That Cameroonians don't have able, level-headed gentlemen to man the affairs of this country? It is terrible, Mr.
Okay, yes. Let me get your first reaction to this call by Cameroon's speaker to the members of parliament, asking them what balance sheet they were going to be presenting to the people, because they were most often not there to even follow up and discuss these issues. If they are not there, what laws are they making?
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. It's necessary I start by telling what I think a parliamentarian or an honorable is. It is somebody who is legitimately elected in a free, fair and transparent election by the people of a certain constituency, and it is a person who stands to fight for the good and represent the aspiration of a people. I want to think that these parliamentarians, whether they are absent or present, they are absent. Because for as long as they have been, we have had no report. Mr. Leo, if you find yourself through the back door into the parliament, remember there is nobody who is asking for accountability. If our parliamentarians were to be grilled by those who borrowed them power, I'm talking about the electorate, I'm talking about the population. If by December there is a stand, a professional stand, to call the parliamentarian of each constituency to say, please bring back your report sheet, bring back your balance sheet, and tell us what you did for the trust, then there will be discipline. Unfortunately, Mr. Leo, it is going to be different, or it is different in this case, because the parliamentarians we have are backdoor parliamentarians. They do not represent the aspirations of the people. They were not elected. They were not chosen. They use mechanism through the back door. Instead of being honorable politicians and parliamentarians, they are horrible politicians, trying to just squander the little money we have. What, first of all, Mr. Kum, is a function of a dead parliament? When the parliament has never voted a bill that was proposed by the parliament. Everything that the parliament discussed about is on high instructions from the head of state. A country that is supposed to be made up of the legislative, the executive, and judiciary has been swallowed up by the executive. Do you know that our parliament was supposed to be able to grill and make sure that things in this country are going straight?
Yeah, but we saw ministers go through our MPs. Were they not grilled?
The word grill there is, how will I put it? It's a managed stage act. I could say that it was a stage act performed. Mr. Liu, I want to tell you without mincing words. Instead of parliamentarians or the parliament to control the ministers, there is no debate in this country that our ministers are controlling the parliament. The parliament has no power. When those people are going there, I want to tell you that most of them are going there with pre-prepared questions given to them on what they have to say. When they talk about grilling a minister, how can you question a minister of public work with when you have unexecuted contracts for years, and then you are questioning about maybe 2 years ago? What happened to the other years? It's just a drama that they staged there. And I think the reason is simple. Those people were not voted. Those people were not selected, and they do not represent. How do you explain that?
When you say they were not voted, how did they go to Parliament? Are you saying that Honorable Joshua Osei was not voted? Are you saying that the other members of Parliament from the north and other regions were not voted?
I think I should come back very.
Did you handpick them to send them to Parliament?
Mr. Leo, you know that in Cameroon, those who represent, especially for the ruling party, they are selected. Whether you do gimmicks, then especially those who are from the southern Cameroon origin, we all know that there were no elections that took place in that part of the country, and those people were just handpicked to represent their personal aspiration. Why is the constituency of people in the northwest and southwest working in suitcase? A parliamentarian is staying in Yaoundé. Does he know what is going on in his own constituency?
You mean there are MPs at the parliament who are from southern Cameroon? Are they not from the northwest and southwest region?
Mr. Leo, call it whatever you want to put it. I'm telling you that there are parliamentarians, horrible people there, who are in Yaoundé, who have not been to their constituency for a very long period of time. Okay,
you call them horrible. I will not call them. I'll call them honorables because, yes, who knows? Tomorrow the PAP may be there, and you will not expect me to call my brother horrible. Yes. Have you people already sat at the level of the PAP to assess some of the expectations you were hoping that they be addressed at the National Assembly? What are some of the things that you think were the expectations of Cameroonians that has not been discussed?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Leo. Maybe going in the same light like my predecessors in the panel of conversation, I will first of all like to make some points as far as issue of the legislative or the parliament is concerned in Cameroon. We all are aware that the principle of separation of power is the source of the problem of parliamentarians. And when that principle is not respected but embedded in our constitution, it is obvious that the parliament is going to be limping and leaning on the executive arm of the government. And that is why parliamentarians collectively with their numbers are unable to wield power that is equal to or could even leverage the executive arm constituted of ministers and a president. This makes it clear for anyone who is observant of Cameroon system to know that they are operating in a presidential kind of government dominated by a president with a hyper concentration of power in his hands, with a very good and well-oriented high instruction system that we have been observing for a while now. At the level of the Popular Action Party, why have we not been able to participate in the previous elections that have taken place in this country so that we could also go to this house to try to change the narratives? We've observed with keen attention that Cameroon system of governance do not respect elected officials, and the disrespect of elected officials is from appointed executive government formed by president elected, and this is where the problem lies. When an appointed SDO in a subdivision or division disregards, disrespects a voted mayor, how do you expect the mayor to carry out the promised project in order that they can fulfill that? I just want to take step by step. They can fulfill the promise they made to the people. Parliamentarians, when the parliamentarian do campaign in the constituency with other political parties and get to the parliament, and a minister comes to tell you that, you know, you cannot come here and change the order of things, the nature of things, the system. That's how they call it, themselves call it the system. It is appalling, because already psychologically that mind of going to the parliament to change, to vote for change of laws, for positive laws, for good laws, is no more the preoccupation of such an individual going to the parliament, but the teleguided manner of going to vote on necessary laws that is money trap is now their preoccupations. So we of the Popular Action Party have observed that until such conditions that provide for competitive politics, for competitive and fair elections, that makes two people in different political parties given the same opportunities, such that the legislative arm of the government is independent of the executive, exerting a lot of influence on them, and the judiciary independent, that the executive is exerting a lot of pressure on them, then we can have a country and call parliamentarians. All these people that are functioning in the high instruction system since 2011 presidential elections, 2018 presidential elections, I'm talking of elections that have witnessed, have participated, have been an active, militant, civil citizen during this period, are all sham. There's nothing to drive them about. From 2013 parliamentarians to 2018, when their mandate expired and they were extended by presidential ordinance to 2020 and 2020, 2022.
What is it that you expected them to have addressed that has not been?
In as much as we know that the system is designed to whip off their power, as people who had this conviction, we were expecting that some of the people that perhaps are trying within their capacity to say they are opposing the government in place should have shown some kind of resistance, radicality to the abnormality existing in the parliament, such as question of Anglophone crisis centering around the form of state. That is what we're expecting the parliamentarians to table as bill. And that is what we're expecting those people to talk on. If we are not talking about question of Anglophone crisis, which is the basis and threatens our very question of living together, integrity and national unity, we cannot go ahead to vote other trivial laws that do not rise above protecting personal interests. We were expecting these people to in collaboration with the judicial arm concerning the issue at the audit bench in the Supreme Court of some ministers, by popular observation, have embezzled huge quantity of money from money provided to protect citizens from a global pandemic, to put it in the parliament, because the parliament is the people's house for check and balances, to control government action, to endeavor that government do not exercise power more than they are supposed to exercise. And that is the very reason for the existence of three arms of government, so that one could control the other and they function to provide public and other services to the people for the people, by the people. That is democracy.
Okay.
But it is a pity that we are operating in the system that high instruction has overruled everything, and we are having parliamentarians that are so afraid to dare
we've not seen
inside the house because their immunity. Sometimes, Mr. Liu, I ask myself that, do parliamentarians who are in the parliament weaker than some of us who come and use the media and other platforms to tell the government that what you are doing is wrong? Parliamentarians have immunities, and it is there that they were supposed to hit the table and tell the government that please redress, do it as it's supposed to be.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. For me, those parliamentarians are for the private interest. Most of them do not know their functions. That is why some of them are always absent. I have never seen the parliamentarian in my area after the section come down to the people and give them the feedback. Felix is writing from Yaoundé. Do we, after this session, should we be expecting MPs to go back to their constituencies and explaining what they have done for these past 30 days?
Mr. Liu, that is like cracking an egg and expecting not to break. It is not possible for them to do what they have not learned how to do. You see, normally these guys are supposed to have town halls where they gather the people before sessions to get their opinions, after sessions, or might be after a period of time to also give them account of what they have been able to do. But unfortunately, we have a people, I will remind us, by constitutional provision, a representative, though voted from Tuba, is a representative of the nation, not of Tuba. That's the first fault that is provided by the Constitution concerning parliamentarians. So, indirectly, they are not parliamentarians of those areas that were voted from. They are parliamentarians of the state, of the nation. So, that is also to tell us that they do not represent the people elected them. And apart from that, Mr. Liu, it is unfortunate that a lot of these guys, do not read the Constitution. Because if they go through the Constitution and see the power that the Constitution hands to them, irrespective of the fact that we have a presidentialist system where the executive is everywhere, they will use their power to question and to control the government to the dimension in which they can. But unfortunately, they do not even know what they have. And so some of them do respect party disciplinary lines above the sovereign people of Cameroon. And so they prefer to submit to the party's discipline rather than to submit to the sovereign people of Cameroon. And in so doing, they make us to believe that their party is more important than the citizens of this nation, Cameroon. And you do not then expect that they should turn to Cameroonians and tell them this is what we have done, or to turn to Cameroonians and ask them, what do you want us to do? They go to their party to ask, what should we do and what should we say? And if you look at it, the unfortunate situation is that the ruling party has the major part of the parliamentarians in this nation. And so how do you expect any progress when it is disciplinary, when it is party discipline that is above sovereign leadership? The sovereignty of the people has been hijacked by the party. And so the party dictates what the people want, even though the party does not represent the people. To be sincere, CPDM is not a party for all Cameroonians. And that particular party does not know my problem, does not know the problem of my brother or my sisters seated around, does not know the problem of my mother in the village, does not know the problem of anybody that concerns Cameroonian citizens. It represents a few group of persons. And since it is the interest of this few group of persons that is represented, those who come from that party will represent this few group of people. And so, even though it is said that democracy is of the people, the representative democracy we have in Cameroon is of the party.
Okay.
So we have a problem.
Okay, it's of the people. Let us take a listen to what Tiku Felix has to say concerning this topic, coming in from Boya, Southwest Regional Capital.
Good evening, Mr. Leo, and good evening to the entire panel. Mr. Leo, the Honorable Kavayege Jibril, the Speaker of the House of Assembly, he stated that most of the MPs will end up having nothing to tell their population because they don't even know what was done throughout the March session. If we can recall, they say only 30 MPs out of 180, that's 1/6 of the number of MPs that make up the legislative chambers are said to have been present during the plenary session. According to the standing orders of the National Assembly, that's section 71, states that members of parliament can give proxy or be absent from a session only when they are sick, on a mission, or in case of a force majeure and other circumstances. But the fun is, with the concerning the internal regulations, there is no measure concern with regards to the absences. What I mean is, no sanction is envisaged if parliamentarians are absent within sessions. So if you pass a law and there is nothing that is like trying to make that law enforced, Mr. Leo, is still like no law. That is why you can see just 30 out of 180 will be present in a situation like this, a plenary session like this. Well, I would like to say that, Mr. Leo, there comes a time in life when even the major pros get tired of the job and decide to retire. In politics, when the lies have so much accumulated such that even truth is being doubted, then situations like what happened during the last plenary sessions is bound to be happening. What has been decided is what will be, whether you are present or not. After all, your package is sure. Mr. Leo, you can be in the parliamentary session and sleep from start to finish. But anytime you get up, the premeditated has been established and passed into law. The way this country runs, I don't think we even need a parliament, Mr. Leo. You can imagine when the executive decides what the stakes should be for the parliamentarians, then it's needless even having a parliament. At times we doubt if we are in a democracy or a dictatorship. I think this is the $1 million question. What is the essence of sitting in a parliament when all you do to bring forth or to bring on table a major crisis like the Anglophone crisis is being aborted? How authentic is the so-called equal representation and unity preached when somebody like the head of the parliament himself will tell another parliamentarian dressed in a well-recognized and well-appreciated Northwest regalia, he tells him to go and dress well? What an insult. These so-called lawmakers or parliamentarians who have been appointed in disguise are now becoming tired of misrepresenting their constituencies. But though they are not tired with regards to the money. So going to Yaoundé for sessions is just like going for another pleasure trip. Their hands are tight. And the only way to indirectly tell the people, you understand, the indirect way they only tell the people that they got no voice is to abstain from sessions and enjoy the pleasures. So they don't have any direct message for the people. The good thing is that even the CPD parliamentarians are also involved. Like Bob Marley said, you can fool some people sometimes, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. Now, Mr. Leo, your question is, what report card will they table before their constituencies? I would also like to ask, which constituencies are we talking about? Who made them representatives? Was it by election or indirect appointment? Are they actually representing a people, or they are paying allegiance to somebody? Is there any mechanism in place to even check their works or level of representation of the people? Mr. Leo, there is no report card, talk less of a people who are interested to know what is happening with which parliamentarian or not. They are tired. So they don't care. There is never a day you see a people rally to want to bring their parliamentarian for not representing them well to book, because no mechanism has been put in this like. So there is no report card, and they owe nobody anything. So that is why, whether they go to Yaoundé or they don't go, so long as their bank accounts are high, things move well. Besides, even if they are to be present, will their take be regarded as valid?
Thank you very much, Tiku. Felix coming in there from Boya, Southwest Regional Capital. I'll take 2 messages and then. Good evening, Mr. Liu and panelists. Looking at the meaning of parliamentarians, it's certain that we don't have parliamentarians in Cameroon. What we have is businessmen who sit in the parliament and sign their allowances and use to invest for personal purpose. Ferdinand is watching from Yaoundé. The problem is not with absentee parliamentarians, but the system in place. Their presence in that house doesn't influence the decisions taken. Why should Mr. Kavai Yege Jibril, Right Honorable, care about their absence, whereas their presence doesn't affect his decision? Good evening, Mr. Liu. Valerie Tewa is also writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu, from Mr. Banas Sema. Ivo, manager of E-Lodge. I love your program. Good evening to you, the manager of E-Lodge. We will be visiting E-Lodge tomorrow, I'm sure. The parliamentarians or senators in Cameroon only meet to sit and compare their sleeping durations, since they are too old. They compare those who can sleep longer and even give marks. After sleeping, they wake up and clap for decisions taken by some of their girlfriends and then sign out some outstation allowances and quit. That is what they do. Happy weekend to all. Fondo writing there. Now, Mr. Anjika, we're talking about our balance sheet. Should we be expecting them to come and explain what they have done and what are they going to be telling the people?
Kum Leonard, what will the Right Honorable Kabayege tell his people? He's asking others.
He was voted. He will tell his people that I stood for elections and I was voted.
Good. Is that what the people need? He's being voted as president for a couple of years. No, Mr. Akuhmbom should be serious. Why this question now? Why this question did not come last year, the year before? Why was this question not asked parliamentarians from Southern Cameroons? What are you going to tell your people? When parliamentary sessions come, I've earlier said this, there are aspirations that the people, the population, expect to be handled. Not only have these people proven their worthlessness to the Cameroonian society. They are incompetent. Some do not even know their duties. They don't. And that's why most of them will take time and sleep and sleep and sleep over. Parliamentarians of Cameroon's parliamentarians have, you know, disgraced
honorable name.
have disgraced the name honorable. They have dishonored that name.
When you say they have dishonored the name, what were you expecting them to do? To sit, anyways, yeah, they were not there throughout. Yeah.
They weren't there, Mr. Liu. They weren't there. Really, what are they going to tell the people? Were they really voted by these people?
Maybe
not at all.
Maybe they went around ministries lobbying for
contracts.
Yes.
That's it.
No, for projects.
For contracts. They are businessmen, you know. They are businessmen.
When you say that is
They are businessmen. So, what do they have to tell the people? Nothing at all. Now, if you look at what is killing this country, it is the so-called party discipline. Party discipline. And what is really shocking is that that parliament is hyper-dominated by CPDM, which means CPDM is a killer disease in this country. And it is high time, my brother of the PAP, you people should reactivate your.
We are doing it.
Yes, you should, because it is high time.
I think the state is run by the government now. The president is in charge. He has ministers and not the CPDM. That is,
what dichotomy can you make between the CPDM and the government?
Yes.
What dichotomy can you make between the CPDM and the government? And let me tell you historically, why we had Ahijo became frustrated at a certain point was because when he gave up the presidency to Mr. Biya, he still remained as a chairman of the CPDM. And you know, during that period, there was no dichotomy between the party and the government.
Are you saying that the Secretary General at the presidency asked MPs not to sit in for sessions? The Speaker himself, he is CPDM, he is angry at the way guys are not serious about it. He is of the CPDM.
Good. And now, if he is bothered about it, let him use the high instructional syndrome to reprimand them. Let him use the high instruction from the presidency to reprimand them. Because, for your information, the president of the National Assembly is also voted from high instruction within the CPDM. That's why there's nobody nobody dares to contest, to challenge him. And you remember, we are talking of 1994, a similar scenario occurred in this parliament, where I've just forgotten the honorable parliamentarian's name who wanted to compete within the ranks of the CPDM with Kabayeke. He stood his ground. And then money that was donated for the Lions during the 1994 World Cup in the USA, where even cripples contributed coup de coeur, what is called coup de coeur, where Concho said that money, the wallet is lying between Paris and New York. That money was used to confuse these businessmen called parliamentarians. So they don't have anything to present. They know that they don't defend any interest because nobody voted them.
Okay.
They have nothing.
Rice oil wrapper, you can name the rest. That's what a parliamentarian represents in this country. Mola Waka Ekwili is writing from Boya. Good evening to you, Mola. Good evening. Mr. Leo, what do we expect the parliamentarians to be talking where we live in a presidential system of government? The system is put in a way that if you speak, you may be considered an enemy. By this way, parliamentarians know that they are there for compensation for their loyalty. Massa, let the speaker stop pretending as if he does not know what is going on. But maybe it's also because the MPs know that whether they are there or not, the bills that are going to come are going to be voted, especially if they're coming from the government bench. Why not also take time off to lobby around for other things in favor of our respective constituencies?
Mr. Liu, when you talk about lobbying around, I want to tell you that the parliamentary sessions are pre-planned. They are not something that, it has a reason. There's a reason why parliamentarians go to parliament. And there is an agenda of discussion. And there is a different time. If you have perhaps a contract to be lobbied, why not raise the issue in the parliament? Does the parliament not have the power to vote it to come to fruition? What I think is, these people who gather here, the Cameroon Parliamentary House is like a Ngumba house. It's like a meeting house where the people meet quarterly to discuss the benefits made so far from the working class or from the suffering masses of Cameroon, and decide how to share this cake among themselves. Because I want to make it very clear, Mr. Leo, that why that parliament is there as a decoration. Because the parliament is there, it was supposed to do checks and balances, to check other arms of government, just like the judiciary. But you realize that it is overridden by the executive. So when the people are there, since it is we have a systemic syndrome of the high instruction, what the people do there, Mr. Leo, why won't you? Why will the Anglophone crisis not be discussed in the parliament, and the mobile money tax will be discussed and it will pass without questioning? It is because these people, they don't really discuss. That's the fact. The parliamentarians don't discuss. They just go there to adopt what has been sent from the hierarchy. And this is where we have a problem. We have a problem because we are having politicians who were supposed to represent the people, the aspiration of the people. They are representing their bellies. After that, whether they have represented the people, whether they were present or not, Mr. Leo, they are going to sign their allowances. It will be paid to them. If the Honorable Kabayege Jibril, who is the #1 person who is even failing us, that is a man who left France and breached the COVID barrier measures and came to the country just to make sure that his seat was not stolen from him. Who questioned him? So when water is dirty from the source, those who drink from the bottom drink dirty water. That's what I can say.
Okay, Fabrice Lena, we are taking a short break to continue right after.
It's an early Easter at Canal Plus. Until the 9th of April, buy your HD decoder at 5,000 francs and get a free installation. Experience the Champions League and the biggest football championships. Enjoy the best of movies and series. Make the whole family happy and spend a good time together. Hurry, it's on the 9th of April, so don't wait anymore. See terms and conditions at Canal Plus shops. Offer valid while stocks last.
Welcome back. You're watching Prime Hour on My Media Prime. This time around, we're moving straight to our second topic, which has to do with the respect our teachers have in our country, why they cross disrespect, and who is responsible. I'll start with you, Fabrice Lena. When you look at a teacher today, you are a teacher. You've played that role. You've even played the role of a principal. I don't know whether you're still a principal. What is the status of a teacher in Cameroon today?
Well, Mr. Leo, Teachers are like the backbone of every society, the intellectual backbone of every society. For every society to emancipate to its full potentials, be it development, be it emergence, we must have that competent, strong, well-trained, morally upright teachers who are there to see into it that generations are being well nurtured one after the other. Yeah, but the situation that we found ourselves in Cameroon is appalling. It's a call for concern. Like I said, I've been teaching as a student teacher since 2016 till integrated myself into the private sector teaching, where I found out that there is a lot of disrespect for teachers. The disrespect comes from a cacophony of education system where each town, each community, each region define its own rules to the education system, and to each school define its own modus operandi of how teachers are being recruited, how teachers are managed, and how teachers are paid. So when the system itself is so confused, without any checks and balances, without any control, without any general policies, it is difficult to even look at the angle where this is coming, because from the side of the authorities of education in Cameroon, that's from the basic to the higher institutes of learning, you will discover that there are a lot of loopholes. There are a lot of things that are not all right because of corruption, because of connection, because of mismanagement, because of all these vices that is eating up the very fabric of our society. Coming back to the society itself, you discover that teachers are being disregarded by those who maybe because of one or two reasons have the resources, and then they are paying teachers off to teach their children back home without any respect. In a nutshell, I still take the blame to the government. Why will I blame the government? The government is supposed to ensure standards beyond which teachers are not supposed to go below. This is economic standard, moral standard, ethics, and values. But when the teachers are not respected in all these aspects, how do you expect the students to respect the teachers? How do you expect parents to respect the teachers? How do you expect the image of the teachers to be presented in the society? It is a failed system that is managed by a failed government under the leadership of a failed president that has culminated to the total disrespect of teachers in a country that is made up of intellectuals, talented young people that are really... I felt so bad to be a teacher at a particular point with the kind of disrespect that came out of it, and I decided that I am going to step up, not just to teach, but to promote education. So I am working in that aspect, but I really have high respect for people who have been consistent in the teaching field for years, because there are many people who have been teaching for 30 years, 40 years in the condition of Cameroon. I really greet all the teachers out there who are doing that kind of marvelous job and doing it with all honesty, irrespective of the difficult conditions, because the constraints of young teachers, be it graduate from ENS, be it private sector teachers, is not really easy.
Okay,
so
it's not easy. I want Mr. Ndrick to come in. He is a teacher. How does it feel being a teacher in Cameroon, and especially in the private sector? You live in Douala, you interact with many other teachers.
Yes, Kum Leonard, I love your caption, gross disrespect for teachers. Now, looking at the word respect, I'll just use this illustration. Mr. Leonard, if two persons enters your living room, one gorgeously dressed and the other in rags, you will certainly, by instinct, have greater esteem for the gorgeously dressed young man. In other words, you will have respect for him. I'm coming.
The book of James does not tell us to do that.
That is the book of James. That is apparent, but I'm giving you real life situation. That's apparent. It's more apparent than real. Good. Real life situation. When two persons enter your parlor, one gorgeously dressed and the other in rags, you will certainly have more respect for the one who is well dressed. Now, the disrespect for teachers, I will give it in three strata responsibility. One, and the chunk of it is from the government, generally. How is our government valorizing the output of teachers in Cameroon? What recognition does our government have for teachers? The government prefers civil administrators who are consumers than producers. A teacher is a producer. Primary, secondary, tertiary producer. That is a teacher. Now, what is his take home? What regards do even the students he teach have for him? Because the government has not put an eye, a positive eye on the teacher to make the teacher feel fine. Let me tell you, Mr. Kum. In the days of the first president, President Amadou Ahidjo valorized two corps. First, the teaching corps. Second, the military. Every end of month, not even every end of month, 15th of every month, that's when he was paying salaries. At the bank, firm instructions were given. The teachers first, the military. My teachers were all driving in cars. But today, what is the situation? If you go to most schools, if you see cars driven by teachers, either they are female colleagues, whose husbands are directors, whose husbands are big people in town there, but male colleagues, you hardly find them driving in cars.
You mean that teachers are not big people in town?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about disrespect. Now, because they cannot have these facilities, they are underlooked, even by their own very students. Now, I will let you know one thing, and thank God a politician is by my right, is by my left. There will be a teacher crisis in this country, Mr. Kum, in the next 50 years. You know why? Go, take your microphone, you are a seasoned journalist. Ask Nivox Pop, how many of the students you will meet on the highway who would like to become teachers? And therefore, there's a problem. A proactive government would have seized this aspect, valorized the teacher so that people should be interested in the core, not disinterested in the core. And why will students not teach? If you interview 100 students, I bet you my life you will not have up to 2 who will tell you they would like to become teachers in future. No. That is already a problem in this country, which the government seemingly is not seeing.
Yeah, but you raised the issue of someone well dressed and the other not well dressed. What stops teachers from dressing themselves?
Their pay package.
Their pay package is poor, Mr. Leo.
Their pay package.
Very poor.
Their pay package is so poor that a teacher finds himself in a tight corner to properly dress himself. And this is a problem. That is at the level of the government. Why is the government not, signing the special status for the teachers?
Okay, you also need a special status.
Now, coming to the private sector.
Yeah.
Proprietors have become financial wolves.
They are businessmen, not
Proprietors.
pedagogues.
A proprietor will call. You know how proprietors call the students, especially here in Douala Mekliang. Now, you a teacher, you are having an issue with a student. The proprietor shows you the door, dismisses you, the teacher, because the student is his customer. Where are we heading to?
Le client est roi.
Where are we heading to, Mr. Kum? Mekliang. And then, despite, I mean, you see the kind of chicken, the catechist salaries that these proprietors pay to these teachers, anyway, and then they'll think they are doing you some good because the CPDM have rendered this country, you know, has brought this country to a level of unemployment that. Yeah,
but is it the CPDM? Is it the CPDM that is paying? Professor Mark Anthony, you have heard what the two of them have worked in the school milieu. Do you really think the teachers themselves are not to blame?
I would not want to blame the teacher for what is happening. I want to blame the person who is controlling and in fact who is controlling this private sector. And if you have to follow law number 2004/022 of July 2004, which actually was promulgated to establish the governing rules for private sectors, you realize that in it, the government actually makes the proprietor to feel like they have control over everything. Why do I put it like that? It is not necessarily like that, but why I put it like that is because when you follow that particular law, you realize that Chapter 3 of that law, Article 19, or should I say 19 of Chapter 3, it makes you to see how the teacher is supposed to be paid. The provision says that the proprietor is the one to pay. The proprietor is the one to handle that, but in relation to the labor code of the nation, which implies that to an extent, since the labor code defines a particular basic amount that the minimum salary, which is about 37,000 francs CFA, that a teacher, a proprietor can say, okay, I'm using the labor code, so I can pay 37,000 francs, and that is enough.
Yeah, but the labor code also considers the level of education now.
Yes, even that provision says that you should get, before you choose a teacher, you should, there's a particular diploma that the person is supposed to have. And let's also come towards the direction. Who is supposed to own a school? According to this law, the person who is supposed to own a school is supposed to be a professional, an educationist.
Yeah, a pedagogue.
Yes, so if we look at the situation at hand today, the question you should be asking, who are those who sign papers accepting in the business persons who do not have any academic qualification to start schools? That is already to make you understand that the system is having a serious problem. They have given a law, but they do not have any means to actually put that law into practice. Because if you ask a pedagogue to start a school, then somebody with his first school with money in his pocket wants to start a school, he comes and gives you money and you give him his papers, who is to be blamed? He will see the school as a business, not as a training institution.
Yeah.
So in such a case, you do not expect him who is out for business to look at the teacher as any important personality. He should look at the student as the important, the person who is giving him money. Like my brother rightly said here, most of them will call their students their client because they don't see any reason why the teacher who is instead taking money from him should be respected. And so they will usher, in fact, they will prefer to give the student more rights than the teacher and disrespect the teacher in every capacity necessary in order, because first, he knows that he is the one who is paying him. The money comes from my pocket, which you use in handling your issues, but he fails to understand. The teacher renders a service and expects to be paid. And when they want to maybe raise their voices, they know that Cameroon has already been drowned to a state where individuals are only looking for the least, in fact, a rope where they can hang themselves from sinking.
Okay.
They will drop you and pick another person who is capable to consent with the amount of money that you are giving. So in such a case, who is to be blamed? You don't blame the teacher who has no fault. You blame the government who has allowed the milieu to be infested by hungry mongers and money makers and business persons instead of pedagogues.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Akuhmbom, producer from the Northwest region of Cameroon. Mr. Liu, I'm hereby making a suggestion according to the above statement mentioned by one of your members that parliamentarians are ruling as instructed. So let me ask this question. How do you know that their absence to attend the session was a sign of laziness? To me, maybe it's a sign to prove to the president that they aren't part of such a government again, especially when it comes to a dictatorship, okay? The government is managed by people who are not serious, have taken away religion, which was a great moral for children. I thank the speakers for their wonderful contributions. When you look in the country today, you will see that you pay for everything before having it, except for teaching core. We live to beg for our so-called salaries in top international Yaoundé, okay? I don't know whether that is a school. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I like the topic. I'm a PhD student in that domain. Can I call and make contributions? Tasha Raymond from Mamfe. I have a lot on that topic. Anything concerning education, you can always, okay. Let's discuss after the program. But isn't it also because almost everybody wants to teach? If the sector was regulated, not everybody can be a lawyer now. Yes, not everybody can be a doctor. The sector apparently is like our sector. A journalist, everybody is a journalist, whether you are trained or not. Yeah.
Mr. Liu, when you go to the teaching corps, whether the private sector or the government sector, those who go through ENS are regarded as professionals. And in as much as government trained teachers with CAPIEN, that's for the primary school, they go through to get their CAPIEN. Those are qualifications they get to. But if you ask the question of why is it like that? Because everybody wants to teach. Why does everybody wants to teach? Because everyday schools are created. And that is the highest business, so to say. Schools were supposed to be created to solve a societal problem.
Yes, they are social institutions.
Yes, it's a social problem, a social institution that is created to solve a societal problem. But unfortunately, the schools are created today to answer a business question. And the more we create the schools, and we do not get, perhaps because the economy is a crippling economy, it is falling. Like Professor Matt just said a while ago, gone are those days when those who are teachers are trained. Today, anybody can be. You know, when somebody graduates from the university, the first job in Cameroon that he tells you that I did was I taught. It's because that's what is open. Talking about the issue of disrespect, I I will share it, Mr. Liu. You know, when you do not pay a teacher well, the teacher lives a beggarly life. And once the teacher represents that beggarly life to the parents of the students, of the people they teach, the parents will never respect you. And sometimes, Mr. Liu, the reason, because there's this lack of money, you realize that before now, teachers were regarded as demigods. In fact, when we went to school and our teachers beat us in school, we were afraid to go back and tell our parents that we were beaten in school. Because your father would take you back to the teacher to beat you again. And we are not dead. But today, when a teacher stands to discipline a child, the next day, if you mistakenly discipline the child of a parent who is a military man, you receive slaps without accountability. And proprietors will not even defend the teachers first. They will defend the parent. Some proprietors or some school owners will come and defend the parent. You see, they will call you behind closed doors to ask you questions. Why did you do that? Why did you do this? And the parent is vindicated. And when the parents even come to school to talk to these teachers, you hear a parent telling a teacher that my 1 month's salary can pay you for a year. And there will be a balance. In front of the child, why won't they be disrespected? You know, teachers in Cameroon per se have been disrespected so much so that, Mr. Liu, when you sit in a beer parlor to drink this beer we drink, they will tell you that give teachers round. The other person has given you a teachers round. Teachers round is a round that does not go around the table. It's a selected round. It doesn't go, Mr. Liu, you get it. It doesn't go around the table. It's selected. Why? The society and the way the teachers have been reduced, they have been reduced to underdogs, disrespected. Mr. Liu, in a country like Ghana, the teaching corps is harmonized in a way that the salaries of teachers are not decided by private individuals. There is a law that stipulates that when you are taking a teacher who has KPM, who has advanced level, who has a degree, this should be the stipulated salary that you have to pay this person. And the laws are written in black and white, and there is a mechanism for checks and balances. Where, you know, Cameroon is a country where we are talking about there should be subsidies. If there were subsidies, for instance, let's say you are employing a teacher, and the law says you should pay this teacher, maybe let's say 100,000 for instance, and the proprietor is going to take charge of 70%, while the government takes charge of 30% in form of subsidies, if those teachers are trained teachers. Why not create the bank account, put a mechanism, and follow up? Because when you are from a teacher's training college, you should have this register in a system, and they should track what are those that the government has trained doing. Are they working? If they are working, where are they working? Where they are working, how is their working condition? But because the checks and balances are not there, a lot of proprietors squeeze people, stress people, and that is why, Mr. Liu, if the government does not play the role of doing the checks and balances, we will forever be talking about the teachers who have been reduced to riffraffs and underdogs.
Hi, sir. My name is Godwill Alim, but my students call me Uncle G from the Southwest region, Cameroon. I'm a teacher by profession. I want to say that teachers are standing tall in every society as the light during the day and the moon and stars in the night. Therefore, they are supposed to be grossly respected and treated well, much more than any other civil worker in Cameroon, because they are transformers of many lives, many societies, and in fact the entire nation. My plea here is that the government should please adhere to the cries of the teachers of our nation and also increase their compensation packages. Many people call it payment, but I call it compensation, because teachers can never be paid as per their services. Thanks for understanding. Appreciation to you all on board. Thank you very much for that contribution. Good evening, Mr. Liu. When someone talks of low pay package for teachers, I feel embarrassed. When you go to secondary schools, especially government secondary schools, teachers go to school twice a week and are paid highly. I think more emphasis should be laid on primary sector first. Kevin is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, Kevin. This one says, good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Ngwasiri Taniform from Yaoundé. The gross disrespect of teachers is based on one, the state have considered teachers' profession as the domain reserved for the poor. That is much reason she doesn't care about it. You can't imagine they killed a teacher and you hear no investigation. That's just to say that teachers owe no recognition in this country. Parents should take their homes responsibly. Educating a child should start at home. We need to give moral values to our children so they will give value to things which they grow up, okay? To things when they grow up, okay? Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and you are a very intelligent panelist. Please, away from the topic tonight, I would love to know how to get the document on special status, even in PDF form. Thanks. Kemta Regis is writing from Yaoundé. Can you just call me later? Thanks for reading my message. I'm watching you live from Libe. Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Just want to let you know that private school teachers are suffering. The government should do something about our salaries. We work like elephants and eat like ants. Where did we go wrong? Vanessa is writing from Lolodov. Yes, this is what I really want us to look at. How do we understand that teachers are teaching in secondary schools in towns and are paid 30, 40, 50,000 francs? Should this be happening? Why? How can the government ensure, like he said, that there should be a standardized salary scheme?
Yeah, Mr. Liu, it's true. Myself, I'm speaking from experience. 2018-19, I was recruiting teachers in the college in Yaoundé. I'm sure that maybe this program, the proprietor should one day watch or should watch. And he asked me, the proprietor of that school asked me to not to recruit secondary school teachers more than 1,000 francs per hour. And at that year, all the applications that came were degree and masters. So when I look at that thing, we needed just 7 teachers to add to the staff of those who have left to balance up for the academic year. And the applications were 115. And the school law stipulated that each application that comes, you take 2,000 francs per application. Yeah, that's to manage the recruitment process. And you see, what made me in this process to like be sick was the fact that you look at someone who has gone to school from class 1 to degree, and then you are being told by someone who owns a school that do not give that person more than 1,000 francs per hour. And on the other hand, I try to evaluate if he's doing it because that is how it's supposed to be, or there are texts that are supposed to regulate this. I discovered that the labor code of Cameroon and everything does not mean anything to most proprietors out there. And I tried to ask this proprietor, please, could we try to change this mechanism? Because really, and he said, no, you cannot come and change the way things are in my school. This is how it has always been. And many people are forced to be recruited in this kind of condition. Why? Gross unemployment. Government is unable to employ people. We are functioning in a pro-public sector economy that you depend either on ENS, ENAM, ERIC, and all its conditions that it comes with by connection, bribery, and so on and so forth. And we do not have any other industry. School and education sectors seem to be one of the highest employers, especially in recent years as CDC has fallen down because of the Anglophone crisis. So everybody, nearly everybody now turns to school. At the end of the day, when I was doing this exercise, I came to realize that teachers, the fate of teachers in this country, like my senior man said here, it's really, really a call for concern. It's really important we talk about this and let people get to know, because what is awaiting us in the future is really a serious problem. It's a serious problem, because myself, I got discouraged. I got one of my main reasons of dropping my administrative position in the school, in this particular school, was because of low pay. Because I produced output that were never produced in that school within a short period of time, and then the conditions came that you cannot be paid this amount of money, it is impossible. And I asked myself, are we paying competence plus level of education and ability to deliver, or we are doing business? When I calculated, I did a rough calculation of the net profit of this person, I came to realize that the goal here is business, not pedagogy. And why has the goal been adopted as business and not pedagogy? The government has allowed people with their extreme laissez-faire system of leadership to do whatever thing they want. You will see secondary school minister delegates coming to school, no inspection. I can tell you that most schools in Yaoundé and Douala do not have what the barème for schools to operate in terms of square kilometers, in terms of the space, in terms of the classroom, in terms of the number of story buildings. All these things are not respected. Once you have the money and you have somebody in Ministry of Secondary Education, you go and they give you paper and you operate. In fact, the system is so messed up. It's a whole cacophony. And the youths of today are the ones that are suffering the consequences of this long bad leadership. This long bad leadership. I always say this, that when men refuse to take the responsibility of advocating for their rights when they can, be it in any profession, whether you're a teacher, a journalist, a lawyer, or whatsoever, there will be a moment in the history of that country that your own sector will be directly affected. There is no sector in Cameroon as of now that has not been affected by the bad leadership style of this government since as of now. And what I came to realize is that Cameroon is suffering from bad, extremely bad leadership, from long stay of power of a single person. And this is the preoccupation. Let sleeping men rise up, because tyrants will tyrannize and will continue to tyrannize when you sleep and then you said, politics does not concern me, I'm not going to take part in politics. Now teachers are taking part in political action, not by their wish, because they have been compelled by the circumstance to start carrying out what we call extra-institutional means of seeking for ways to solve their problems. Same with lawyers, same with other people in other sectors. Transport guys were also medical corps, journalists. All sectors have been affected in this country. And the simple reason is bad governance for a long period of time. So, at the end, what motivated me to join politics and start doing politics is what? I realized that if you do not take part in the process of influencing, of decision making, they are going to leave you behind. And do not cry when they will take the decisions and impose on you and it's bad and you are suffering the consequence. So it's better you take the lead and be part of the change.
Most teachers in private schools are under-trained and they don't have the skills to teach manage behaviors in classrooms. Many proprietors are only interested in making money. They recruit mostly those teachers that have no option to refuse recruitment. Research has been done on that, and it is the truth. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Ambombe protest from northwest region of the country. I'm here by saying that the disrespect of teachers by students is greatly becoming a cankerworm, because most of the students are being protected by their rich parents, who are still the misters that are passing the laws. Oh, sir, good evening. Dressing accounts a lot for teachers because they had to bound colors shoes in GBHS Bali and impose only black shoes because students put on shoes that even teachers couldn't afford. Desmond, writing from Bali, Nyonga. Good evening, sir. I'm called John from Chang. I really appreciate the first speaker. Thank you very much, Ken. John. This one reads, good evening, Mr. Liu. Teachers of basic education are in trouble. It is quite terrible and disturbing because teachers are evaluated at entrance into GTTCs, evaluated on daily basis in the course of training for 1, 2, or 3 years, evaluated at the end of training and awarded a certificate, evaluated to become a state worker that you were trained to be, evaluated on your files to become a civil servant after serving for about 11 or 12 years. This gives the impression that the government doubts the quality of training that is given to personnel of basic education. Or would I be right to say that it's just a calculated strategy to inflict suffering on the concerned? Imagine that teachers graduate from training schools and spend 10 years in the farm before being recruited, if at all fate works in your favor. Those that are impatient tend to sort for admission into ENS or other fields. How can the government compensate the wasted years? As if that is not enough, you are asked to sit for an examination before being recruited as though you were never evaluated before being awarded a certificate. Worse still, the few ones that are recruited are placed as second-class state workers, contract workers, for another period of 10 years of misery. After the 10 years, another bonus of about 1 to 2 years is given, making a total of about 12 years of torture. Then teachers are now asked to compile a long list of documents as if your name never existed in the database of Ministry of Public Service. Some again spend 2, 3, 4 years without any integration decisions, regardless of financial remuneration. Some are finally integrated at the age of 50 years, while others go on retirement as contract workers, which plays negatively on their pension benefits. It is rather unfortunate that our minister doesn't bother or care for his workers. Ministers Adama Alim were females that were easily convinced by the government, but with the coming of Laurent Serge, we thought things were definitely going to change. But the idea has been proven wrong. Or is it that our trade union leaders have been bought over? May God help us. Elvis is writing from Douala, painting the pathetic situation of teachers. Good evening, sir. I must congratulate your panelists. They speak well. We need education reforms that will cater for the teachers' welfare. We pray God answer our cry. G. Solo is writing from Bonaberry. Good evening to you, Solo. Mr. Liu, beautiful topic. The government has made young Cameroonians to believe that teaching is the only area of the state you can get a job, so the ocean of teachers is full. In this way, there is no scarcity. Instead, they move to beg for vacancy. Moreover, teachers are disrespected because they do not carry guns and protect politicians. Ekumi Raymond is writing from Kumba. Yes. So unscrupulous proprietors in Yaoundé who are miserly egoistic have greatly reduced the teaching weeks. Okay, Ebayo is writing. Now, are we not also in this situation because of the motive for the creation of schools, Mr. Njika? If you are doing business, the motive for engaging in business is to maximize its profit. But in the creation of school, the core motive is that you want to help advance the moral and the building, construction of the mind of children who are going to be leaders of tomorrow.
Yes. What we are saying is the creation of schools by proprietors is accepted by government because they are like, the government cannot be everywhere at all times. And that is why the issue of subvention comes in. Schools are being given subvention because they are doing what the government would have done. And that's why this subvention. But now the problem is, the government have abandoned its obligation, just as we were saying. I will shock you that in one school in Douala here, I've been in charge of the Anglophone section in one school. They needed a certain document, a salary roll. I was forced by the proprietor to sign a certain amount against my name, which I've never received. I signed hundreds of thousands.
I will not sign.
They'll sack you now.
Yes, sack me.
I'm telling you,
So,
the same thing.
yes,
That's rubbish.
hundreds of thousands against my name as my salary.
Lock me in the room
No,
because of same
Whereas my salary is not up to 100,000.
It's possible to track that if it's
Now,
possible to
they present that at that high level to show the powers that be. This is what
How we are
on the ground.
taking care of our staff.
Secondly, you talked of the low salary index for private teachers also stems from the fact that, you know, the private sector is infested by the professionals, the non-professionals, the skilled and the unskilled. I will tell you that in most private schools, at least 40% of the staff are teachers from the lycées.
Yes.
80%. So you see, like what teachers were
Part-time.
were doing, it didn't affect the lycée teachers who were not going to school in their respective schools, attended, you know, and they put in more time in this they call farms. They call farms.
Yes, it's a farm.
Now, with this number of labor, supply is more than demand. We have many laborers in the labor market for the teaching corps than the available schools, and that is why a proprietor will tell you, if you don't, he will show you the door and brings in another person at, you know, a chicken change salary. So what we are saying is this: the government should follow up its engagement. There was a time the government wanted, and then the officials are corrupted by the proprietors. This issue of subvention, what did the government propose at a certain time? If I am giving you subvention of, for example, 5 million a year, let me recruit teachers. Instead of me giving the school subvention, this money should be used, the government should recruit teachers for that school and use this money and pay directly to those teachers. Accept the level of the public service. But what happened? Proprietors went, bribed their way, you know,
That's funny.
truncated the whole arrangement, and the thing died in natural death. That's it.
Yet.
There was that in the pipeline. The subvention I'm giving you, I will recruit teachers, pay them, than to give you that subvention. The proprietors know. And that is why
What was the money called?
teachers find themselves where they are in the private sector. Now, coming to their disrespect, the law, let me tell you, I'm in a certain school where a parent came, took the teacher to court, brought the bailiff in the school, because the teacher just pushed the child by the head in class when the child was gorgeously disturbing the class. Now the man said, no, there's a law in Cameroon that does not permit teachers to beat or to touch a student.
Of course, they do that.
And you see, teachers have become victim of that law. And then the man went and brought the bailiff. In fact, my principal, by his charisma, you know, he had nothing to do, had to beg the situation, twisted the situation for the man to go. You know, so these are the kind of things, the tight corner where teachers have been pushed. But that's why I say the government is highly responsible of the teachers' situation, especially in the private sector.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. If you like to have a clear example of what teachers are going through in Cameroon, go to Jutitsa Plantation on holiday and see how teachers are sent in the farm to plant tea just for 50,000 francs, living a hand-to-mouth life. Cameroon is finished, okay? Jutita, I'm sure they do sugarcane there now. Good evening, Mr. Liu. School is really business. My proprietress has no idea in pedagogy. She is but open an English school. She knows nothing concerning education or teaching, but you need to see how she controls our classes. Us who have grade 1 even talk to us in front of parents. That is just to say school is a business. Good evening to you, success writing from Kribi, Prof. Akuhmbom. May you live long to eat the next yam. Amen. I am carried by your introductory statement. Okay. Yes. Good evening to everyone in the studio. My name is Diodone. I was a teacher, then gave up about the job. Only teachers can feel the pains of what is going on in the field, and it's a public shame to the government when teachers that are hope of a society are being treated that way. All Cameroon blame is on CPDM as long as that party continues to exist. And okay, Cameroon is in doom because everything that is going on, they understand it very well. Okay, good evening to you too, and to all of you. I really want to read most of the messages, but it's difficult to get them. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm called Papis from Yaoundé. In fact, sir, I want to appreciate all of you and to say that you are wonderful Cameroonians who can speak for the people. I can see that you are more parliamentarians than what we see every day. In fact, keep up, and I pray that the situation in Cameroon will change one day following our cries. Thank you very much. This one says, I wish to deny what one listener just said. Most of us are well trained. I graduated from Eniet Mbengui with assez bien, and for the love of the profession, I render my services in private sector. Anu Beltus is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, my Mr. Liu and your cool members in the studio. I'm Valerie from Bamenda. The system is corrupted. Even pastors are not also respected in church. Okay. Yes. How do we turn the situation around, Professor Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Liu. You see, when you go through these laws and regulations that have been established by the state, you realize that there are actually good provisions within it that permit that a teacher should be well paid and respected. I mean, in private lay institutions. But the unfortunate thing about it is that most of these provisions are just provisions of the law without any systematic follow-up on how it is implemented. And also concerning the fact that corruption has come into the field so much, where a proprietor can pay off, might be an inspector who is coming in to inspect issues, and in fact they'll just forget about the teacher. So I think that in order for this problem to be solved, the government needs to strengthen that aspect of follow-up and supervision of these institutions, following the law which they had established. And if you look also, the whole idea where the regulations, the law stipulates that the proprietor should follow the labor code. I think that, like Song said, there should be a harmonized salary scheme for every teacher based on your grade, which should be respected both by the lay, private institutions, the confessional institutions, and as well as the public institutions. If that happens, you will not have a problem where a teacher who might be want to teach in 10 schools, get tired and comes, might be he pours out his anger on a child, which results to another conflict. If that is done, you will see how the respect for teachers will come in. If you follow, in Ivory Coast, a teacher is paid at close to 500,000 francs. Secondary school. In a month. That makes you to see how they try to raise the standard of the teacher and to give him the necessary respect that he needs. In such a case, you do not expect a student or maybe a parent to downlook a teacher, maybe even slap a teacher in front of students. In fact, drags teachers to court because they think that they are poor and can be malhandled. So I think that the government needs to come back on its regulations. We have the regulations already put down. It is necessary to follow through with its execution. And corruption should be fought within this milieu in order to make sure that these teachers have the necessary pay that they need. And I also tend to teachers and say, most of the times, teachers forget also that it is their responsibility to stand up to make sure that whatsoever the government has put in place should be executed. You see, when teachers, for example, of recent teachers were striking and they went home, sat there. In fact, they were in school, but they were not teaching. That only happened in public schools. Reason being that in private schools, if you there are a lot of persons who want to teach, you will be forgotten. Yeah. But I think that there should be a system where these private school teachers can be able to defend themselves, and I'm sure that is there because you are supposed to belong in an organization.
That should belong to.
They should belong in a trade union in that organization that should be able to protect you and to fight for you.
Yep.
Apart from that, you will be like a loose cannon.
Okay.
So, I think with that, Mr. Liu, teachers will have respect.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. I appreciate this program. I pray the cry of teachers should be listened to by the government, especially the cases in private sector. Can you imagine as a principal in one of the colleges here in Kribi is paid for 9 months and I'm not registered at say NPS as well. When I reclaim my rights, the proprietor just told me straight into my eyes that I am not, if I'm not satisfied, let me go. There are people outside looking for my position. The case is so terrible, especially to us teachers in the private sector. This is Santo writing from Kribi. Yes, very pathetic. Mr. Liu, good evening. I am you, Peter from Banyo. The parliamentarians were very right. They know what they are doing. There is a huge hidden agenda. How can out of 180 members in the House, only 30 were present? They are running away from their leader. He is old. He is no more productive. That is what the parliamentarians are telling Cameroonians, that their leader is no more productive. About proprietors of schools, it is not the high certificates they have that matters. Think of people like Alit Pa Young, Pa Ngafo, and Pa Longla, which high certificate did they have? We and all know them, and we know what they did, and they are still doing it now, even though in their graves. It is the end that matters. Let's all wait to see how Cameroon will end. It is like Satan's home. It's only in Cameroon. Thanks for your program. Thank you too. Yes, what should be done to fix the situations of teachers, to turn their situation around?
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. There are a lot of things that should be done, both by the proprietors, the government, and the teachers. First things first, we plead on the consciences of those who own school. To think that we have teachers who work for the government, who are category A2, who earn, I think it should be 150, 200,000 francs, are on the streets crying. And there are teachers of the private sectors who earn as low as 50,000 francs, and they have to go to the same markets that those earning 200,000 francs are crying. Think first about that situation. It should be a conscience problem. Secondly, the government needs to put in place checks and balances. We are tired of the land of promise. promises every day. They should end their promises and go to work.
Glory.
If the government cannot do that, people will keep crying. Because, Mr. Leo, it's simple. If they can accept my humble proposition that let the private sector employ their teachers if they so wish, if the teachers are trained, their matricles are given, and then if the government agrees that the proprietor is supposed to pay a 70%, then they should create a pool account that every month while the proprietor is paying in the 70%, the government is paying in the 30% in the same teacher's account. That can help. Then,
but if the government has to come in with the salary situation, the government will need to regulate the fee situation.
Not only the fee situation, what about clandestine schools that are operating by people who are working in the government? There are a lot of clandestine schools out there, and government knows that it's operating.
That's my humble opinion, all the same. If they have to check, and then secondly, trying to make sure that these teachers, especially with the private sector, they are enrolled into CMPS. But that is not only the problem. Mr. Liu, I've seen a situation where teachers refuse to be enrolled into CMPS. They need education on that. But we are saying that private sector should try to enroll these teachers because CMPS is a future benefit. It's like you are saving for the rainy days. And then teachers too need to pull themselves together. That is one thing that is difficult, especially for proprietors. You realize at the private sector, there is no syndicate that bring teachers together. It's a calculated attempt. Yeah. No proprietor wants them to come together because the moment they are together, they start. For instance, some proprietors do not want a romance between this school that pays the teachers very well and his or her school that doesn't pay very well. Because the moment the teachers start discussing that, hey, in my school I'm paid 100,000, I'm paid 150,000, you're like, huh? I'm paid 40,000. And then they can pull together to fight.
Okay.
And then we also want to plead that conscience to our owners that the economy is getting stronger. Prices of goods and services are getting stronger. And a hungry teacher cannot hold the chalk very well.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Liu. It's all about business now, not impacting knowledge on other teachers nowadays are not more serious. Everyone keep hustling to get certificates just to put food on table. Not the whole conception of teachers. I'm Lambert Kevin at Monte Chapelle Obili in Yaoundé. Good evening to you. They're writing. Hello, Mr. Liu. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please, can I have the teacher status? This government really undergrades the teachers. Okay. Kemani Andre says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all the panelists. Thank you all for bringing up this topic on teachers' treatment in Cameroon. I believe the problem is the government who has failed to define the status of teachers in the private sector. Reason why you are free to take what you are proposed by the proprietor or you leave it. Let the government intervene and give a status to the teachers of private sectors. Kimani Andreas, writing from from Douala. Kimani Andreas, where do we meet after the program? We've not seen for a very long time. Greetings to you all. My question is, should contract teachers teach the children like contract children? Edward is writing from, I don't understand what he means by that, but we are out of time, just 1 minute on what to do by the proprietor and the teachers to turn their situation around.
Mr. Liu, I think Prof. Mark and Mr. Song has given a lot of recommendations already, which is technical, professional, and directed to the teaching field and the academic milieu or the education system in general. Here, my own cry and plea to Cameroonians and teachers like other sectors is that problem of Cameroon is a reform problem. We need a reform of all sectors, education being one of the sectors. So my own problem is that we should not keep telling other people that issues of the country or the state do not concern us. We have to interfere. We have to ask these people. We have to question them. You have to know your rights, your political right, human right, economic right, education right. All these rights are important.
Okay.
Now, knowing this right will permit you to take active participation in the political life of your country, because we are already at the verge of transition, which is important that youth should get engaged so that we will reform the education system. And that's why the Popular Action Party is out here telling youth to join us for proper reform in the process of transition.
That is the politician talking. Let us get the reaction of Tiku Felix on the second topic.
The politician has spoken.
Yeah, Mr. Leo, we have come to realize that naturally in life, poor people in the society naturally attract disrespect. Another group of persons who also attract disrespect are people who want to be pitied, who in every situation want people to pity them. And such people are bound to be disrespected. And looking at it keenly, you realize that these two attributes measure in why teachers are kind of disrespected. So we see that teachers play a role in why they should be respected or disrespected. Though other factors, especially those related to their pay package, also play a major role. So there are many reasons as to why teachers are being disrespected, either by parents, by students, or by the proprietors or the people, their employers. The first thing I want to say is that the disrespect comes from the image that many people have of teachers as glorified babysitters who have lots of time off, more than the regular workforce. So the myth people believe is that teachers don't deserve a huge package because they spend very little time in their teaching activity. They work only during the contract day of when students are on the premises, meaning during a period like the third term holiday, which is about 3 months, they don't work. And so they don't actually deserve a huge pay package. I think this one attracts a form of disrespect, especially with the others who work so much to get what they get. Yes, teachers are disrespected by many professionals also, just like I was saying, in other fields, because their pay is so low, comparatively speaking. And according to them also, it is not a job to make a boast of, because anybody can teach. That is other people's take. An accountant will disrespect a teacher teaching his child because according to him, anybody can teach. Besides, he earns more than the teacher. So all these things, they attract disrespect. You understand, Mr. Leo? Also, people also think teaching is a job you do when you can't do anything else. The society has come to believe that most people who go to teaching training schools are people who have failed on every side of life, and teaching to them is now the last bus stop. So that's why some parents will expect teachers to raise their kids for them on subsistence level salary. Worst is with the elementary school teachers. These are the least respected of all. For some reason unknown to mankind, there is more respect for teachers who teach other than elementary school. But we have failed to understand that it is in the elementary school that the formative years of habits of mind are essentially addressed positively, so that the later years of school beyond elementary are better fulfilled and more fulfilling. Another reason, Mr. Leo, is parents' inability to teach their children good morals at home. Since in today's family, respect is not taught when dealing with adults, it is obvious it can't be expressed elsewhere. And teachers are mostly the victim because their hands are tied as to how to discipline these disrespectful kids. You understand? You don't train your child at home, and this child come to express this bad moral on a teacher who has been told not to beat a child in school. You understand? So all this, that the main reason why you see teachers are not being respected. So besides the aspects of low salary and poverty, which is not the teachers making, a lot of disrespect they get is caused by themselves. You understand, Mr. Liu? So another factor with regards to this is the negative relationship, or a negative teacher-student relationship. Let me put it this way. Mr. Liu, how can you as a parent respect teachers knowing well that it was a teacher who impregnated your daughter in school and changed her course in destiny? It makes you automatically to hate anything you hear teacher. How can you as a student, we have all been students, how can you as a student, Mr. Liu, respect a teacher who is eyeing a student, a female student, whom you also have an interest in? There is a kind of competition. The teacher has gone low. He has become so low to make you a rival. So this brings a form of disrespect. How can you?
Okay, he brings a form of disrespect. Okay, whoever has been struggling to manipulate the Facebook page to cause us to pay you money. I'm not ready for that. I would not pay to have the views. You could even make the views to be 0. I won't pay any dime to you, please. Good evening, Mr. Liu. This Desmond Kuma writing from Yaoundé. With what is happening in our country, Cameroon, between students and teachers really discouraged some of us who are on the way to take up teaching as a profession. And if proper care is not taken, most of the teachers might give up, okay? Mr. Liu, please help me with the number of Mr. Fabrice, the PAP, Secretary General. Just call me after the program. I will send you Mr. Fabrice's number. Teachers in Cameroon are treated like babysitters. That parents, proprietors, even the learners mess with them anyhow. Good evening to you too. Now, we are out of time. We have to end at this juncture. Mr. Njikan, thank you for coming.
Thank you too. I want to say thanks to fellow panelists. But permit me to extend my greetings to the group proprietor, the late the wife of late Mutanga Andrew, the former city mayor of Limbe.
Okay. We also want to say thank you to you, Professor, for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Liu, for the opportunity, and to my fellow panelists who did a great job in discussing this topic. And I also want to extend greetings to my uncle, John Uchi, who is in Boya, and to those of them in Bamenda, in the village, who are watching us right now.
Okay, thank you for coming, Mr. Fabrice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu, for always having me. I'm grateful. Special good evening to all my people in Bonaberry, to Jones, to Sema Ivor, to Wala Emmanuel, and to those in Yaoundé. I want to greet Oga James, Ego Paul, and those who are with President Jan Dennis. We are together, PAP, the people first.
Good evening to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. It's always a pleasure on your program, and I want to especially appreciate you for the fact that you cut across all the programs. You do not only talk politics, you talk about societal problems, you talk about marital issues, you talk about business and everything, which is everything that builds up the society. I must say kudos to what you're doing. It's a good credit, and to all civil society activists, it's high time we started talking and talking truth.
Thank you very much for watching this program. A special thank you to you guys who are producing the program, Desmond, Eli, and everybody. Not forgetting you, Tabi Tambe Bryant, who is supervising the work we do out there. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.